Hello, and welcome to this edition of Point of View. I'm your host, Maurice Lewis. Wait a minute. Is it a boy? Is it a girl? No, it's going to be a boy. You mean another me? Oh, I remember what I did to my parents. What about you? If you had the question in your mind, do I want to wait or do I want to know? Karen McReynolds is my co-host today. We have some questions from someone who should be able to give us some answers.
Maurice, we certainly do. Today we have with us Troy Kemp, and he's going to tell us about the uniqueness of boys.
Absolutely.
That's a tall order. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I was actually born ready. I'm a boy. I'm a man, right?
Okay,
Unfortunately, these kids are born without user's manuals, like you have with most items, and they don't have scouting reports like most coaches do. So the National Center for the Development of Boys was created to help parents come up with a better game plan for raising boys and helping educators better understand boys so they can incorporate the wiggle they have in the classroom.
Okay.
But it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Exactly. There's 7.4 billion brains on this earth, and no two are alike. And so there's a spectrum of boys across the country and abroad. Unfortunately, there's about 80% of them that fall in the category of the folks who don't sit still in class, who don't follow verbal instructions very well, and who do things without second-guessing some of their actions.
You actually wrote a white paper on this, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, understanding boys in the 21st century. I tell people all the time, people parent the way they were raised, and they teach the way they were taught, and coach the way they were coached. Unfortunately, the landscape has changed, so we put the 21st century part on it because there's a different type of wind chill out there. There are factors that are influencing them. So there's nature, nurture, and culture associated with the growth of every person. Nature, how you're wired. And what we're talking about is the fact that some of these young men take up to age 30 for their brains to fully mature, where the average girl takes up to age 22 for their brains to fully mature. And when we talk about fully maturing, we're talking about the frontal lobe, the part that represents the brakes of the car,
that's right.
and controlling impulsivity. Also, the fact that boys have less serotonin and oxytocin. Serotonin controls mood swings, but also impulsivity. And oxytocin is related to bonding. And so when you see a boy that will do something that may seem destructive in your eyes, he hadn't thought about the destruction. He just thought about the action.
I want to look at the possible connection there because you've seen so many of our young people in many cities, including Chattanooga, bond with people who are in gangs.
Right.
That whole sense of belonging. What's that about?
Well, we say this in a short way that boys need a crew with a cause. They need a crew with a cause, and what that simply means is they want to wake up knowing that somebody's counting on them. And typically when you have young men who disengage, they're going to look around to try to find the first family unit. And oftentimes they need male role models because the male identity is confirmed by males. And so as soon as they know that some male is proud of them, they may be a father, but oftentimes there are a bunch of households that don't have a father figure. So they're going to find somebody in the community. And gang leaders are often there waiting to say that you can be a part of our family. We just need you to do the following things. And they're willing to do almost anything to be accepted and be a part of a family.
So how do you institute what you all do into the education system or other agencies that work with boys? How does that work?
So the first thing we do is awareness, build awareness, and then we do professional development for teachers. So we'll go in and do up to a 6-hour professional development experience in which they learn about the neuroscience behind how the male brain works. For example, why boys don't tend to process words as well as girls. This is one of the reasons why you see the literacy levels between 1.5 to 3 years behind girls when they graduate high school. And part of that is the fact that girls process words on both sides of the brain, where boys tend to process on one side. And so oftentimes they have to incorporate a graphic. So graphic novels, when you talk about kids reading and so forth, if they don't like to read, sometimes you have to incorporate the images. Or if they don't like to write, have them draw before they write. There's a small thing that we share.
Girls have a lot more words in their vocabulary than guys do. I'm hungry, feed me, I got a car, I want a car, can you fix this? You know, it's different, and the whole conversation is different. So you take young boys from around the world, they come to your school for development. Some of them come from very wealthy families, some of them are not from very wealthy families. How do you strike that balance so that you can work across the lines?
I was a math teacher, and so one of the concepts was the least common denominator. And what you basically focus on is what's the same. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, you still need a crew with a cause. No matter if you're rich or poor, you need a safe place to fail. You know, boys manage risk very well. When you have a low level of serotonin, what that simply means is I'm not going to take the kind of risk because I can't manage the feeling and the emotions associated with it. That's why oftentimes a boy may order steak in a restaurant and the waitress brings out chicken. And they'll say, I'll take the chicken. I'll just eat it. But the parent's paying for the steak. And they said, no, you're going to ask somebody to change your order. But they're willing to sit back and let life pass them by, to let opportunity pass them by because they don't want to engage emotionally. And so the biggest challenge when you deal with kids, whether they're from the inner city or from a penthouse in Beverly Hills, is that they're all trying to find a place where they can experience things without losing something.
That's right. Yeah.
And so having an environment where they have a safe place to feel like a boy can try music but not necessarily be very good at singing, but nobody's going to judge him. That's why sometimes these all-boys schools, whether they're charter schools or independent schools, tend to work for kids that when other schools don't necessarily work for them. So single gender experiences at times just removes those obstacles of the threat level. It lowers the threat level, which means it increases the level for opportunity.
How do you get an opportunity to try to correct some of the ingrained ideas and habits of young men who come to you from different places, and this is what they've been doing, and this is what their parents did, and what their grandfather did, and now you've got them?
Well, I tell people all the time, for young men, if you don't deal with some of the challenges that you have, all you're going to do is pass them on to somebody else. You know, pain is like energy. It just can change forms, and they're going to give it back to somebody. And so what I share with young men when I deal with young men directly is the old paint theory. If you're going to paint the outside of a building, the first thing you have to do is prime it, or you have to sand it down, and you have to get it prepped so you can apply the new paint. When we talk about educating and parenting, the old paint is often the image of what boys think it means to be a man. And they're just getting bits and pieces, and they're trying to build it on the people they see around in their community, or now the people they see on social media. And so one of the challenges is you have to unpack what their image of what it means to be a man, because oftentimes the thing that protected them as children, being hard, being able to fight, being tough, being silent at times, those are the things that prevent them from learning the things they need to learn in the classroom and building relationships.
Karen, you have the last quick question. We have less than 30 seconds to go.
I just want to know what inspired you to do what you do.
I was raised in a single-family home, a single-parent home, and one of 5 boys. When my older brother went to jail at around age 18 because his way, my mother's rule was my way or the highway, so he took the highway, but he wasn't ready. And so it wasn't her fault. She did the best she could, but I also understood that he was being misunderstood.
Well, you've been clearly understood today. The only problem that we have is that we've run out of time.
Stay tuned.
Now,
Hey, just follow us.
We've talked about boys in this segment. Coming up in this edition of Point of View, we'll be talking about a tradition of excellence from a young woman who is actually a queen. Thank you very much for staying with us for this edition of Point of View. Karen McReynolds, we've been able to talk about what about boys, but that's not what this next segment is about, is it?
You are certainly right. We're now going to talk about girls. And I am so excited. We have Miss Kaiya Moore here today.
Yes.
And she's going to tell us who and what she is and what she's been doing with herself. So, Kaiya, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, my name is Kaiya Moore, but I am also known as Miss Bessie Smith, the inaugural Miss Bessie Smith 2018. I attend the Chattanooga High School Center for Creative Arts there. I'm a senior musical theater major, and I love to sing, I love to dance, I love spending time with my family, but overall I love to laugh. And so I think that's just a look into my life. I have other aspects, and I just feel like the Bessie Smith pageant has been a great pour into my life. It's made me mold into a different person. And I don't know who I would be if I wasn't Miss Bessie Smith right now.
Well, who taught you in it? So what made you decide to compete, first of all. What's it like competing in a pageant?
So when I was younger, I always knew that I wanted to sing.
Wait a minute, when you were younger?
When I was younger, like really young. We used to have the videotapes, with the tapes in the recorder. We used to put them in there, and they would record us doing like fashion shows and singing and having our own little concerts and everything. So I always knew that I wanted to sing, right? So I get to CCA, and it's my junior year, and my piano teacher, she's like, "Hey, Kaiya, you should do this pageant." I'm like, "Pageant? What?" I'm like, "Me? Are you sure?" And she was like, "Yeah, you should do this pageant." So I was like, okay. I told my Nana, and she got me enrolled and everything, and we did it. But it was very, very odd because I'd never done anything like that. So, going into a setting where you aren't comfortable, it's just like weird. So, but when I got up there, I found myself, right? So as we're doing the whole pageant, as we're going through everything, you don't know what the judges are thinking. You don't know if you're good enough. But I feel like doing this pageant, it's made me not care about if people think I'm good enough, because I know that I'm good enough.
Well, do you know who you're sitting next to?
I do.
Do you know that she also has a beautiful voice?
Yes, but I am waiting to hear it.
Well, Kaiya, we'll just have to have you wait a little bit longer. But
I was trying to open that up so that I can get you two to maybe do a little bit.
Yeah, not now. Kaiya, I really want to know, and I know Maurice was asking you, how was it for you being in the pageant? But what did you learn about yourself being in this pageant?
So I always knew that I was outspoken. My mom thought that I was outspoken. My daddy thinks that I'm outspoken, but I never knew how to find my voice. Mm-hmm. And so being in this pageant, it made me realize that I am the face of a lot of other people who look like me. And I didn't think that I could go into that role and do that professionally, and I didn't think that I would be able to do that and be a leader of a lot of other people. But that's made me realize that I can, and I can say what I want to say, and I can articulate it, and I can say it in the right way, and people will understand me. So I think that's just one thing.
Well, you've been able to get out in the community a lot. How do you feel when young girls look at you and say, wow?
How do I feel?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I say wow, too. I say it back.
So it still hadn't set in for you yet?
I don't think anything has been setting in for me. I just go and go and go and go and go. And I just try to make myself better. But you know how other people are like, you're so great. And I'm like, oh, thank you, am I? But,
So what do you think in terms of the pageant world? What do you think, going through one now, what can be improved in terms of pageants that you've seen and now been in?
So one thing that I feel like could change was how strict they are about what type of people come in. Because there are many types of people who are able to put themselves out there and have different talents. But I feel like if you don't fit a certain standard, then you aren't pageant material. But being in this pageant has made me realize that you don't have to be like them to be them or have the crown that they have. The pageant that I'm in, Miss Bessie Smith pageant, we didn't include bathing suit or swimwear in our pageant because we didn't want women to feel like, or young ladies to feel like they had to objectify their bodies, which you don't. You don't have to wear a swimsuit. You don't have to be thin to be beautiful. You most definitely don't. You can be beautiful in the inside. And so I just think that's one thing that can improve, like how people view you. You don't have to fit a certain standard. You don't have to fit inside the box to be great.
What was the conversation like with some of the other young girls that you competed against? And did you feel your confidence waver at any point?
I just felt like during the pageant, I felt like it was really good for me to be with those set of girls because they were so empowering. It wasn't about winning or losing. I even talked to my friend, and she was like, Timber, I really want this. And she was like, well, I just want to have fun. And I was like, so I think that was a great thing about it, that everybody was empowering and everybody wanted to motivate each other. The more we motivated each other and the more we uplifted each other, the more enjoyable the pageant was.
Great. That's great. So for the new girls that will be coming into the pageant, what advice would you give them?
I would just tell them to be prepared, to expose themselves and tell each other who they are. Because you're going to have to get up there and you're going to have to let people know, and you can't be afraid of letting someone know who you are.
What do you mean? I can't be afraid of letting someone know who you are. Some girls just don't like to be all of that because some other girls are going to put them down for trying to shine too much.
Right. So I feel like you should always put your best self forward. Whatever you have prepared, you should put that forward, because that's what we want to see. We don't want to see someone who's over there shy because they're not getting what they deserve. You know, we want to give someone what they deserve. We want to give somebody who wants it. So the more you stand out, to me, it's the more that you want it.
You sound like you want to win.
I think she will. I think
she
she will. I think she will. So what kind of training did you all have to help you to talk in front of people, walk in front of people, just have that confidence? What did you go through?
We went through multiple rehearsals, and we always, I call it slating, but we always slated, and we had a coach, and she coached us on how to talk and what to say and everything. But I think for me, a lot of it was going back home and practicing, because a lot of people say that practice makes perfect, and it does.
What about the upcoming contest for Miss Bessie Smith in 2019?
Yeah, tell us about the application process. What does that look like?
So on the application process, I believe you have to submit an essay. You also have to submit the documents and things about yourself, like who you are, your family, your siblings, your school, and everything like that. You also have to submit the money for the application, and then after that,
how much is that?
It's $100,
right.
I believe.
Yes.
And then after that, you just go to the meetings and the rehearsals, and you get everything you need.
And if you're lucky, if you're the most talented, you win.
You win.
I guess you can say that.
It feels
right.
good to win, right?
I can't say
Thank
it
you
doesn't.
very much, Karen.
Thank you, Kaiya. Thank you, Kaiya, so much for being here today.
My pleasure.
We've had just I think a fun time talking to you, and a little bit, seeing a little bit about the pageant world here locally in Chattanooga. So I want you to stay with us for a look behind the scenes for our next episode of Point of View for TechTown.
This is Glynn Hodges. Welcome to this session of Point of View. Chattanooga is known as the gig city, and rightfully so, because of the high-speed internet at an affordable price. With that brings a lot of high-paying jobs, often high-tech jobs. It's a responsibility of any community to develop the future taxpayers. A lot of that is done in a place called TechTown, located on the second floor of the Edney building. Today we have with us Kevin Love, the Executive Director of the TechTown Foundation.
Yes, sir. How are you doing today?
Great, and glad to have you with us, Kevin.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here.
What goes on within the walls of TechTown?
Oh, man, where do I begin? So TechTown, we are a nonprofit foundation. So we specialize in robotics. We specialize in computer coding. We specialize in 3D printing and design. Of course, film and design. We also do after-school programs. We have homeschoolers over, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and we also do programming for adults as well.
Now, you say adults as well. What age children do you work with?
Yes, sir. So with the children, we start from the age 7 to 17. So we're getting them right when they go to first, second grade up until their senior year of high school.
Now, do they choose the curriculum that they want to pursue here at TechTown?
Typically what we do is we give them an option. So if we're going to offer any offerings, we'll let them know what classes we're offering for their particular time frame, and they can sign up for the classes based on what we're offering at the time.
And an example of maybe classes that you recently had.
Yes, sir. So we had a website development class where we taught some teenagers how to develop their own websites. We also had a robotics class, a robotics club, where they came over and they programmed the robots. They built them from scratch, and they also battle-botted the robots once the robots got completed in the preparation of them building them. They got the battle bots, so that's the fun part of it. So we torture them in the beginning with the coding, because a lot of kids, typically don't understand coding for the most part. So when we get in here and we teach them coding, and once they get through that phase of frustration with the coding and they understand it, then they get to program the robots, and they do all kind of cool things with the robots.
Now, we're actually in the studio at TechTown.
Yes,
so
sir.
what takes place in the studio?
Yes, sir. So, of course, Point of View. We do the Point of View show, but we also do a number of events around town as well. We've done things for Chattanooga, for the city of Chattanooga. for River City. It's just to name a few, Blue Cross Blue Shield. So it's a number of videos that we do, that we record and edit and produce here in our studios here at TechTown.
And you have more than one studio here, correct?
Correct. So this is our main studio, but we also have a smaller studio next door, so we're able to, record multiple shows or multiple things at one time.
So what other curriculum do you have besides robotics and videography and editing, I assume?
Yes, sir. So we also have 3D design. So if you're into architecture, design, or anything like that, the foundation of it is understanding how to do, design work on some of the programs that we have. We also have game design, where kids can come in and learn how to build their own video games. We also do coding for adults. That's one of the curriculums we have as well. And so just to name a few, we're rolling out a few more newer programs in the top of the year here.
What are some of the newer programs we can look forward to?
Yes, sir. So forensic science is one of them. We're going to be rolling out. AutoCAD is a program we're going to be rolling out as well. That's going to help with companies like Volkswagen. So what they do is they use a system called AutoCAD that allows them to go in and design the cars. And we're also going to offer out drones, so we'll understand and build drones for kids. And we'll also do animations, so video animations as well.
Now, you alluded to some after-school programs.
Yes,
I
sir.
assume that maybe takes place outside the walls of TechTown?
Yes, sir. So we have a couple of after-school programs. So one of them is called TechTown Travels. And so with TechTown Travels, that allows us to take our equipment over to the schools, and that's typically 1 hour or an hour and a half of instructional time that we go over and we teach at the schools. But we also have a grant from the state of Tennessee, which is the 21st Century grant, that allows us to do tutoring for 5 days a week. But we go in on 2 of those days, and we have what's called enrichment days. Those are the TechTown days where we come in and we use the technology, and we kind of use it in partnership with the curriculum that the teachers are teaching the kids. So we do PBL training to go in and understand what the kids are learning for as testing, and we kind of base our technology curriculum around that.
Now, different kids learn different ways.
Correct.
Do you have anything to maybe adjust based on the learning styles of particular children?
So typically what we do is, you do have kids that learn faster than others. So if it's a kid like that, for instance, what we'll do is we may have a more advanced curriculum for them to work from. So we'll advance the curriculum for them. But for the kids, typically working in the schools, the teachers identify the kids that need a little bit more help. And we have assistants that go in with us as well. So it's not one instructor with 20 kids. We have assistants with them as well. So if the instructor is teaching and they're moving at a faster pace than the kids can keep up with, we have the assistant that can go around and help them out as well. But we also do surveys and pre-tests for the kids as well. So we test them beforehand, and we also test them after as well.
What about volunteers? Do you have a lot of volunteers that help with TechTown?
Not particularly. We would love to have more volunteers. Typically, we get volunteers when we do the pop-up camps, so we do things outside of TechTown. But we're always looking for volunteers. We don't have as many volunteers now. We did in the summer when we had the summer camps. People would help us out, or they'll go pick up the food from the YMCA for us. So we have had volunteers in the past, but right now we are looking for more volunteers.
Well, what is the greatest need? What's the talent you need from these volunteers?
Well, we just really need the spirits mostly, because when we're dealing with the kids, sometimes kids do get down on something they get frustrated with. And so having people that can come in and uplift the kids and just kind of, be the motivation for them and let them know it's okay to make a mistake because, we can overcome that mistake. But also just helping us out is needed. We do a lot of things in the community, so just helping us out in the community as well.
Well, we've got to wrap things up, but you're a nonprofit.
Yes.
How could people help out TechTown that see the value you're providing the community?
Yes, sir. Well, we're always looking for help, of course. We do have a link on our website. It's called Sponsor a Kid. It's a tab on there. It's Sponsor a Kid. And what the Sponsor a Kid tab is, if you go into the tab and you want to donate, you will sponsor a kid to come to our summer camp this summer. So we have 8 weeks of summer camp, and you can sponsor a kid to come for 1 week at the rate that's on the website.
And that includes, I believe, a meal and a snack during the day?
Yes, sir. So it includes lunch, and it includes snack, and it includes 30 hours of instructional time for the kids during that week.
Well, thank you so much. And the website that they could go to is
www.gotechtown.org.
GoTechTown.org.
Yes, sir.
This is Glynn Hodges thanking you for joining us for this session of Point of View. Stay tuned for our next session because Maurice Lewis has a real winner planned for us.